got a very important guest with her now. Let's cross to her and find out who she's talking to. Kathrada?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Peter, as tributes continue to pour in for struggle stalwart Ahmed Kathrada. So many have come to speak about the Ahmed Kathrada that they knew, both when we talk about comrades and those who were extremely close to him during very difficult times during the apartheid era in South Africa. Without wasting any time, I'm going to join now the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Baba, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I know that you met the late Ahmed Kathrada after he had been released from Robben Island at a community meeting in Durban. What was it that struck you, first of all, about Uncle Kathy, as he was referred to, and of course your condolences to the family?
Well, firstly, let's start by conveying our condolences to the family, to the friends and comrades, and all South Africans who are all touched by the passing of Comrade Kathrada. I met Comrade Kathrada in the 90s after he had been released. This was in the build-up towards the 1994 election. There were a series of meetings that we were going through, and at that particular meeting, he had come to address largely Indian community meeting. What struck me with him was his very humble nature. You know, he's appeared there, and when he stood in front of people, he was talking in very, clear but very calm, voice. And when I looked at him, I couldn't reconcile the humility, the calmness, with the kind of history that he has been through. That he was amongst the few when the Rivonia trial amongst the high command, that he had been involved in the struggle since he was young as 18 years, and he struck me as a very sincere person. But over the years, as we came to know him, we have respected him for his integrity. He is a reflection of what we have been taught as the founding values of the African National Congress: integrity in leadership, humility in leadership, but intellectual depth that made us always want to listen to him, his advice, and the education that he would give us. But also the contribution he has made in the struggle showed his selflessness and his love for the people, his compassion, and how he was able to respect everyone and treat us as though we were some significant individuals from somewhere, when we knew the giant and the stalwart that he was. But he never really carried that with him on his shoulders. It was us who knew, but he would relate with us with that kind of sense of making us feel at ease. And as a result, we learned a lot from him. We would like to say as well that, whether he has passed, that remains the lesson of his exemplary leadership as a role model will always stay with us. The fact that, he could be so principled as to stand up and raise his views and give advice to leadership without flinching, without fearing, without retreating. He would just stand there and share his views. That for me became one of his hallmark of his leadership.
I want to talk about that mentorship. We've heard quite a lot from ANC members about how he would provide mentorship to some of the younger cadres at the time. And in particular, when you talk about Durban, we know that he was one of the founding members of the Progressive Indian Youth Congress. And with that, at a very difficult time, I guess, when the Indian community itself was being deprived to stay in particular areas. What is it in particular that you picked up about him, given that he started this at a very, very young age? Was he vibrant? Did you feel the zest within his voice when it came to taking on the apartheid government and the atrocities then?
Comrade Kathy used to be all over in South Africa. And so if he came to Durban, he would be there because he was there for particular work. He would be in different parts of the country, as it were. And I would say that, the value of his leadership has been the fact that he would impact on us irrespective of how young or old the individuals would be. As we speak at the moment, we have always wanted to be associated with him whenever there were such opportunities. But when you sat with him, and he takes you through some of the experiences, and he takes you through some of the understanding of what's been involved in the struggle, there's always something to learn from him. And therefore, the fact that we have had him surviving this long has continued to be useful, because even though he was no longer in active politics, but through his foundations, it will always be a pleasure to listen to him addressing. And it's out of his addresses that you always learned quite a lot. He would tell the stories of how he lived in Robben Island, and some of the experiences that he used to have during the struggle. But in terms of guiding us as to what needs to be done at this point, and his passion for the youth has been the one main thing. He would always talk about that we must always focus on the future. The youth needs to be taught about non-racialism. They need to learn to accept everybody, and that they must always work towards the development of their own potential. And his major passion was about talking to young people and giving hope for South Africans. And he was always very optimistic and hopeful about the future of the country. And sometimes, when you look at the challenges that we face, he would say, yeah, we'll get over all of this, but we're going to go into a future which is more positive, because he was very optimistic as a leader.
I want to get to exactly that when we talk about guidance. Some would perhaps say gone too soon, given that perhaps the African National Congress would need the kind of guidance at this very point with some of the challenges that it is facing. He's also been very critical of the leadership of the African National Congress in recent times. Your thoughts on that, and perhaps, the voice of Uncle Kathy and some of the condemnation that he's had over the past, in recent times?
Well, that's what we respected Comrade Kathy for. And all of us know, we also always knew that if Comrade Kathy had something to say, we better listen. And in this case, he has spent time sharing his views, and quite often some of them were quite critical about the things that he observed in the organization. But we appreciated that. We appreciated the fact that he came all out, because his role is to mentor the leadership at all levels, is to guide the leadership at all levels, is also to be always there whenever he thinks an intervention from senior leaders of his caliber were needed. And so he did that. And so when he raised the issues around the challenges that are facing the organizations, he made us sit and listen. And we have looked at a lot of those issues, and I must say that what he said also was not something that we had not observed. Yeah. Some of the challenges that were raised about the irregularities that were seen in the organization, some of the issues that relate to the erosion of the image of the organization and the distance between the organization and its members and the society as a whole. These are the issues he has urged us to correct. And when he raised those issues, we have obviously been we have infused them in the whole package of issues that require our attention as we prepare for the conference. And you would know that amongst the people who have raised the same issues were the other veterans and stalwarts who have met with the leadership of the African National Congress. We believe it's important because he believed in unity, and he taught us unity, that we must work very hard to build the unity of the African National Congress, and his life will remain an embodiment of unity of the ANC, unity of the people of South Africa, non-racialism, and the equality of all people of our country.
Just finally, Dr. Mkhize, obviously the ANC, as it goes through some of those challenges that you mentioned, what do you think the ANC could take from the life of Uncle Kathy to ensure that that legacy lives on, and the very unity that the ANC has been calling for is something that pushes the organization, which he was with till his death, remains?
We must follow his teachings and his advice. Excuse me. We need to unify the African National Congress and dismantle factionalism at all levels. We need to make sure that we approach the National Conference as a united party, and also make sure that we focus on the issues that worry our people, issues of poverty, issues of economic transformation, issues of inequality, issues of education, and the issues of how do we build our youth to be the kind of leadership of moral rectitude and integrity that our country needs. And I think that he has given us enough to think about and also to model our lives on. And so as the ANC, we will be going through the next few weeks, engaging our branches and our structures to raise with them the issues that need to be corrected, amongst which are those that Comrade Kathy had raised. When we go to the policy conference, the first 2 days we will dedicate to the issues that Comrade Kathy had raised and a lot of other members of our organizations had raised in relation to what needs to be put right within the organization. And of course, as we go towards the conference, the same process needs to be worked on. I think we need to ensure that we build the strong bridges of understanding amongst members from different communities in South Africa. South Africa has to be a non-racial society where different communities are able to work together, coexisting together, but at the same time we need to also attend to the issues of building this economy so that it serves all the people.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, who is the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, calling on all, of course, to continue with the legacy of the late Uncle Kathy. This as tributes continue to pour in. Just to give you a bit more insight there, Peter, as well, we're expecting at 5 o'clock this afternoon, the former President Thabo Mbeki will also be paying his tribute at the Thabo Mbeki Foundation. Of course, you would know there's been a very strong relationship between the Mbekis as well as the Kathradas. You'd know that the late icon was incarcerated at Robben Island with the former President's father, Governor Mbeki. We're also going to bring you that live here on SABC News.
Griselda, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to be going just now, but just one last thought. Again, very grateful and very lucky to have met and spent time with this great man over time. And if there's one thing I think that I can honestly say about him is that he was a gentle man. Last of a rare breed of man who lived of honor, integrity, honesty, and as we've been hearing, spoke truth and always had time for people around him and was genuinely interested. And so it's a very, very sad loss for not just South Africa, I'd say humanity in general.
He will be missed. Peter, thank you so much. We will take a short break, and News at 1 continues after this. Thanks so much for joining us.
Tulasi,